let's get straight to it. Right now, I want to talk about a personality. Start off as a rapper. I honestly wasn't too big on this guy. Not until probably like 2000 and maybe 2020 when all my peoples was telling me, like, not all my people, let me not even gas it like that. Like a majority, a handful of my people were telling me like, yo, you should really check out this podcast. Um, I don't know, I see some similarities between you and this guy, and I'm like, what the fuck y'all niggas was talking about? And they was talking about this nigga Joe Budden. So I'm like, all right, man, listen, I'm gonna check out a few episodes. I've noticed conversations I had um, usually end up on the Joe Budden podcast, and I'm assuming that's what people meant, or the things I just choose to talk about. Which I thought was odd at first. At first, honestly, if I'm keeping it a buck, I even hit that nigga up. I had to get the Patreon and like message that nigga like, yo, nigga, you copy me? Nigga, like, what's going on? And I realized now we do have certain similarities, and I'll admit that. Like, I'm not gonna get into that, but the way we talk shit, the way we just witty people, whatever. Um, Another thing, I guess the music. This nigga always dropping unmastered, unmixed music. That was kind of like my bag, not because I was doing it intentionally, because I just didn't really care. I just wanted to throw music out and just like release my thoughts in a sense, or just like, oh, just hey, look what I did. That's what I was really all about when it came like just creating. Like, yo, just check this out. Yo, check this out. Um, I never really heard any of his music honestly after like Pump It Up and Focus. I maybe heard a couple like singles and features and this, that, and third. I know he was a part of a group called like Slaughterhouse. I wasn't really too much of a fan of Slaughterhouse. Joel Ortiz, I'm more familiar with, if I'm being honest. Maybe because he's from New York. If he's from New York, he's from New York, right? Yeah. Um, but that was about it. I never really like paid attention to Joe Budden as like a person. But then, like in more recent times, like more articles pop up on my timeline about him and stuff like that from way back in the day. And I saw this one thing on the Vibe or some Vibe magazine on Double XL, and he's talking about just like pause if necessary, like anal. He's like, I ain't doing that shit. And it's just like, yo, this nigga got some personality to him. So I was like, oh shit, all right, cool. Like, so I started checking out his podcast, and I was just like, all right, this nigga is kind of funny. This nigga is, all right, I ain't gonna hold you. I'll fuck with this. I do check out the clips on Twitter, and I have listened to full length episodes while like doing work or like editing or like pressing up things and stuff like that. Um, but I never really like paid attention to him because I didn't really care honestly. I don't really pay attention to a lot of people honestly. If I'm keeping it a buck, but the only reason why I felt like I was like, let me check him out because too many people kept on telling me, yo, you have to watch this nigga, you have to watch this nigga, you have to watch this nigga, and I guess he got a lot of people in the chokehold, which kind of applies to my theory on Joe Budden, and this is it. Just last week or a couple days ago, I forget which one, I was in a space via Twitter, via X, formerly known as Twitter. Something odd happened in this space. Spaces is a it's kind of like what's that app where people could talk be in their phone and they could have group discussions and whatnot. Clubhouse. It's like Clubhouse, but it's for Twitter. So yeah, I'm in there. I'm just listening, mind you. I'm not going to step to the stage and like voice my opinion just yet. I wanted to see what was going down in there. The headline was Joe Budden podcast episode 1 or something like that, whatever. So when I finally decide to step on the stage or request to speak, um, things was just it was cool. It was funny. I guess that Joe Budden podcast community. There's some pretty funny people in there. But I know this one thing, and it made me think: is Joe Budden starting a cult? That's just my theory, honestly. And this is my reasoning for thinking this way. So when I finally got on stage to speak, asked Joe Budden a question about something that happened in the previous podcast that I kind of thought was kind of odd as well. And when I went to go ask the question, why somebody stopped me? No, nobody stopped me actually. Once I finished the question, someone spoke for Joe Budden. I'm just like, what? So I asked Joe about something that happened, whatever, and the person goes on to say, Joe Budden's not going to answer that, so I'm going to answer that for him. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on in here? Like, yo, this nigga got these niggas like that? Yo, bravo. Shout out to you, my guy. That's kind of fishy, man. I don't know, man. That led me to think, yo, he got these people under a certain type of control. Granted, these people are a fan of Joe Budden. They follow him online and offline, apparently. When I looked at the person who spoke and said he was going to speak for Joe, I noticed he had a page called The Stop, and all his content actually was all Joe Budden, almost shriners. Like he had a shrine of Joe Budden on his YouTube page, which was kind of like, all right, cool, I get it. People need somebody to talk about online, reaction videos. There's probably multiple other people just like this. But that specific moment, I ain't gonna hold you. That shit threw me for a loop. Because he did not just do that once. That nigga did that shit multiple times in that chat. I don't know if that's his like shtick or that's his thing. But to me personally, I was like, all right now, my nigga, like what we got going on in here? I wanted to say something, but by the time I spoke throughout the conversation, whatever, I got booted off the stage. So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna take that L and just walk off or whatever.